let's talk about Ashwini Pada 3 today. So as we do every day, we will talk about the Ashwini Pada 3 using the mantra of Ashwini, and we will understand the physical appearance and characteristics. We will also talk about different lords being placed in Ashwini. Okay, and also a few in Ashwini Pada 3. So as we do every time, please look at the mantra of the Ashwini. I have done a complete class on Ashwini. Okay, so please listen to it if you have not done that. One plain Ashwini Nakshatra class is done in which this mantra is explained. Now I have picked up the third word in it, which is the Gramaha. The Gramaha would mean, Grama, everybody would know Gram would mean village, but not very usually people use, the Sanskrit word Gramaha would represent the intercourse that happens between the male and the female that is used to populate a village. Or in other words, the Shiva and the Parvati are the father and the mother, and they are trying to do the yajna, that is the intercourse, wherein the population is expanding, right? So even Gramaha would mean intercourse, or Gramaha would mean village, right? The planet that is placed in the Pada 3 of Ashwini would be in Aries, which is ruled by Mars in the D1. It would be also placed in Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury in the D9. So what we have to look at is, irrespective of what the planet is or what lordship is it getting, it is definitely controlled using Mars and Mercury, right? So we need to see what is the interaction between Mars and Mercury. How do they interact with each other? Okay, if we know what these two planets are all about when they interact with each other, and if we remember this word Gramaha, and we also understand what Vilakshana is, okay, which I will eventually tell you. This is the sun, which exalts in the Aries sign, where the planet is placed in the D1. Rahu is the exaltation point that I am considering in the Gemini. So at one place, sun is exalting. At in the D9, the Rahu is exalting. So sun plus Rahu, right? So if you see this line, the shloka or the mantra, Ashvinor Ashvagujau Gramaha Parastat Sena Avastat. It's a very simple thing. So two horses, right, are having an intercourse to produce, the army, right? The army that is the Deva's army that is being produced. Okay, so you can translate just this line into several things, right? Because the Sena is ruled by, if you know what the Skanda or the Kartikeya is, he's the lord of the Devasena, right? Devasena. Usually Kartikeya is considered as the husband of two people, two women. One is Valli, who's a tribal. The other one is Devasena. Okay, the Devasena is nothing but the army of the Devas, right? So that Sena is what you can consider here. And two horses are having the intercourse to produce it. What would horses mean is elevated beings. So you can also think like the parents of the world, the Shiva and the Parvati, whatever name you want to give it, Brahma, Saraswati, or if you belong to a different religion, then your father and the mother, right? The divine beings are trying to populate the world, right? And they're producing an army. Army doesn't necessarily mean that they are getting into a conflict. Army is something that is offered as a protection or as a defense. Because if you have to defend something, then also you will need army, right? Whenever we get into a problem or something, the national, what is it we call that, relief force, right? The NDRF, it is also a part of the army. So even then, the army chips in and it tries to take the rescue of the situation, right? So the mother and father are trying to populate the earth, or the divine mother and the divine father are trying to populate the earth. That is what this would, by and large, at a very high level understanding is that. So now Gramaha would mean, a village or a collective people who are sitting at a place discussing, right? Or a person who is the head of a village and he's trying to control the village, right? And also, if you see from the Aries, where the D1 in the planet, any planet placed in the Ashwini Pada 2 will be in the Aries sign in the D1, and it goes into Gemini in the D9. So you have to count 3 houses so as to move it to the Gemini. Okay. So what happens then? It means that it's the courage part or the third house significations. What all do you have with the third house? You have the courage, the bravery, and the communication, and then the sexual desire or to initiate sexual thing is the third house, because the third house rules initiation or the courage either to start an affair or courage to start a job, courage to start a business, courage to initiate something is all coming from the third house. It is both a good house and also a bad house. For that matter, if you ask me, all the 12 houses will have good significations and also the bad significations. It's up to the individual of how he is trying to utilize a planet or a signification placed in any of the 12 houses. All 12 houses bring in good. All 12 houses equally bring in bad. There are no bad houses exclusively. There are no good houses exclusively. Believe me, they don't work like that. Okay, probably you all guys must have understood already this stuff, that there are no good houses and no bad houses. It's just a feeling that 6, 8, 12 are bad, and the 1, 4, 10 or the 1, 5, 9 are all good. No, it's not like that. It doesn't work like that. Right now, you look at what Mars and Mercury are. Right, what do Mars and Mercury have to offer if they are together? What does Mars? Now look at from Mars's angle. From the Mula Trikona of the Mars, that is the Aries, look at what Mercury is ruling. Mercury is ruling the 3rd and the 6th houses. So for Mars, Mercury is their biggest enemy, right? Because it rules both the enemy houses. What are the enemy houses? We have 3, 6, 7, 10, and 11. So what does the enemy would do? Enemy can do 2 things. Enemy can do probably multiple things, of which what an enemy usually does is, or from the astrological point of view, what he does is, enemy insults you, enemy insults you, enemy challenges you rather, right? Enemy keeps saying that, look, are you big or am I big, right? He keeps challenging you. So it also depends on how are we going to use this challenge. So there are some people in the world who would want to accept a challenge and grow, right? And some people would be very, very disappointed if they don't get challenges in life. Because if you see people who are successful, they have faced a lot of challenges. And people who have not stepped out of their home and happily living in a comfort zone, they have not seen any challenges and they're very happy about it. So you have comfortable planets in your horoscope. It means that you are very, very less interested in taking challenges up. Right. On the other side, if you have challenging planets wherein the 3, 6, 7, 10, and 11 houses are involved, it would mean that the person is ready to accept a challenge and make use of it either to earn money, gain knowledge, do the dharma, artha, kama, moksha thing. Right. It can help in all the ways. All right. So the relationship between Mercury and Mars is they will try to challenge each other, right? That is one thing. So there is always a conflict in the life of this person whenever there is a planet in the Ashwini 3. At the outset, it may look like the person is not successful, right? If the outward world want to see the person placed in the Ashwini Padatri, whoever it is, right? And outwardly it will look, because it is through the journey. We are seeing him through the journey. At the end of 50 years or 55 years, the person is extremely successful because he must have accepted a lot of challenges in life. However, if you're seeing him during the 40s or the 30s, right, because you're seeing him through the journey, then people would say, look, people of his age are already settled they have got a secured job, they have a family, etc., and all that. But this guy is constantly struggling. Although he knows a lot of things, he's not interested in doing any of them because he wants to take up the best out of it, right? Because Mercury and Mars are very youthful people, right? They are in the very young ages. Mars is an army commander. Mercury is a young child or a young teenager or in the early 20s, yes. What are these people doing? Look, I'm young. I need more money, right? I can do better. I cannot settle for less. These are all the lines of either the Mars or the Mercury. They are very good at saying commonly these lines. What do they differ on? We have talked about these things during the Mercury and the Mars classes, right? So you need to know them. If you do not, then you have to go back to the classes of Mars and Mercury, listen to them well. Right? I have done exclusive videos on Mars and Mercury as well, 2-hour videos each. You have to understand those things as well. Now, Mercury and Mars, where do they differ? Mercury keeps saying, look, my friend, it's all about the buddhi, the intellect. I will keep using all my intellect. Mars will keep saying, look, brother, it's all about the bhuja or the bahu or the strength, the physical strength. I will keep using all my physical strength to achieve something. I'll move the mountains, right? Mercury will say, yes, I will also move the mountains, but I will use a bulldozer for it or an earth moving equipment for it. So both are essential, right? Mercury is a little afraid. Mercury is a little timid man for being born as a child of the moon. Moon is always afraid, right? So his children are also afraid. Whereas army commander is used to looking at blood. So he's not afraid, right? These are the two people. However, if a challenge comes up on the intellect side, then Mercury does it better. If a challenge comes up just on the bravery, can I go alone, etc., all that stuff, because Mercury is not an alone guy. Mercury doesn't like to be alone. He's a child, right? He's a son of the moon. Moon is also not very good alone. That's why we have the yogas like the Kemadruma yoga and all that stuff, talking about the moon, that if the moon is idle or moon is alone, then there is a problem. Similar thing happens with Mercury also. That is why people keep saying, if you have planets with the Mercury, Mercury will become like that, right? Everybody must have heard this term. So it helps Mercury to have a planet alongside him, right? So Mars can also sometimes help Mercury on the bravery thing, right? So he makes Mercury more brave. Even that is possible. All right. So Sun and Rahu. Sun is hot, and Rahu makes the sun even more hotter, right? A hot sun would mean, you must have seen Sun. Sun has two wives. Sun has many children, right? So Sun has always produced twin children, right? He's got Yama, Yami. He's got Saturn. He's got the Ashwins, right? He's got more children like the Karna of the Mahabharata. So whenever Sun appears, Sun keeps giving children. So that kind of a thing that you can see wherein, there is a lot of libido, right? The person has either a lot of libido because it's the third house, or he has a poor sexual orientation, the LGBTQ or whatever the term is. So that kind of a sexual orientation, because it's the Mars and the Mercury. We've talked about the Mars and the Mercury before as well. So this combination can bring that thing as well. And also, if you look at the Amsha, what is the Amsha here? Like all the 108 Amshas, the 27 Nakshatras, each of them will have one Amsha each. So each of the Amsha has a name. This Amsha is called by the name Vilakshana. Vilakshana. Lakshana means a characteristic. Vilakshana means unique characteristic, right? This planet behaves uniquely, right? So you cannot generalize anything, okay? So as I said in the previous classes as well, bhoga is not always good. If you have to work, then bhoga should not be there, right? If the planet represents the planet represents work or karma, the 10th lord, if it is placed there, or planets that represent the 10th house, like the sun, the Mars, etc., if they are in the bhoga amsha, the person will struggle because he has to work and he's not able to work because he's used to luxuries. Similarly, Vilakshana would mean unique. Okay, so the person is trying to do or behaving differently in the group. There are a group of people. Grama would mean a group of people. Vilakshana is somebody who is behaving very oddly in the group. Okay, it can mean a person assuming. Okay, there are a team of farmers. Okay, his uncle is a farmer, his father is a farmer, his mother is a farmer, brothers are farmers, cousins are farmers. Everybody in the family is a farmer, and this man studied well, maybe became a scientist in the NASA, right? So he is different from this group, right? Or everybody at the home is all doctors, and this guy did not even get through the 10th grade, right? So the person is entirely different, right? So never judge saying, okay, this amsha is good, that amsha is bad. Even that is not possible. All 108 amshas can be good. All of them can be equally bad. Please do not stereotype saying, look, bhoga is good, that is bad, etc. You cannot say so. Taskara is also not bad. Taskara is also very, very good amsha, right? The first amsha, where the Ashwini Pada one, Taskara is the amsha. It is also very good. It can extremely work very well for people who are needing power or positions where only one person can sit. Let's suppose there is a director level position in a company and only one person can sit there. You can have 10 managers, but a director can be only one, or a chairman can be only one. You cannot have 5 chairmen, right? So in such positions, if it is a company where the person working can be promoted there, then this man will stand a better chance who has the Taskaramsha, right? So never think, oh, Tashkara is a bad thing, it's a thief thing. No, he becomes a thief there because he has to snatch it away from everyone, the position. So in such cases, this man will become the chairman rather than somebody else. All right. So you have to use these things very cleverly. Do not stereotype any of the amshas or any of the Sanskrit words, because Taskara is a common word all across India. Everybody knows the meaning of it. Taskara is a thief, right? Similarly, most of the people will know Vilakshana is the same word in Telugu. It's the same word in Malayalam. It's if you know the olden Hindi, which is not influenced by the Urdu, then you will also know Vilakshana would mean unique, or something which is no lakshana. Vilakshana means not having any lakshana, or Vilakshana means a very different characteristic. Both would mean the same. Okay. Now, moving on, we will have, as we have seen with the Ashwini Pada 1, we know that it's the Dharma Amsha. Pada 2 is the Artha Amsha. These are the Purusharthas. The 4 Padas are the 4 Purusharthas. The third Pada is the Kama Amsha. And the fourth Pada, which we will talk probably the next week, will be the Dharma, the Moksha Amsha, right? So Kama Amsha. So Kama would mean in Sanskrit is desire. Okay, not necessarily lust, because in most of the Indian languages, Kama would mean lust. But in the Sanskrit, it would mean desire to become something. Okay, this man is endowed with something, but he wants to become something else, right? Away from what usually people will do. He wants to do something very differently. All right. So now the characteristics of the person born in Ashwini Pada 3, you will have a well-proportioned body. The person is very attractive, right? Because it's the Mercurian Amsha, right? So first time you will get to see, we have talked about these things in the previous classes. Please listen to the class on Gemini, where we have explained this shloka of Sirshodagi Nirmaithunam Sagadamcha Savinakam Pratyagvayur Dvipat Ratribali Grama Vrajo Anili Samagatro Haridvarno Mithunakyo Budhadipaha. Right? We've talked about this shloka. And if you read this shloka, it is very, very clear. Nirmaithunam, right? Wherever Mercury appears, wherever Buddha ruled houses appear, the Gemini and the Virgo, these will always talk about Maithunam. Maithunam means the process of having sexual intercourse, right? Nr-Maithunam, that means two people are having a sexual intercourse, right? And also it shows it's a Sirshodagi, that means the person is extremely intelligent, right? Sagadamcha Savinakam. I have explained all this shloka previously as well. Sagadam cha, that means the person has a weapon in his hand. You can see this depiction here. Sagadam, that means the person has a mace, holds a mace here. Gada is a mace. Saveena, that means a person, the lady is holding a veena, right? So it can mean a Brahma and the Saraswati. It can also mean Shiva and the Parvati. It can also mean Vishnu and the Lakshmi. You want to call it by any name. These are the divine father and the divine mother. Okay, it's not related to religion. It is just trying to depict till now. What we have been seeing is in the Aries, we have seen what? We have seen a goat or a ram. In the Taurus, we have seen an ox or a bull, and first time we are seeing a human figure, right? So for sure, more than the goat and more than the bull, a human being is more intelligent, right? A human being always makes use of all the animals, right? Because he's more intelligent. That's why he's ruling the planet. The human being, if a human being feels that tomorrow, in the next 1 year, I have to get rid of all the lions in the world, then he can easily do it, right? I'm talking about all the humans altogether, right? So attractive, looks young, right? Mercury is a young person, and also Mars is also a young man. So he'll look young, attractive. Now, Mercury is the planet which rules the natural third house, and Mars is the planet which has the signification over the third house. Mars has signification of the third house and the sixth house, right? Both the houses, the Mercury is ruling, while Mars has the signification, and they both have two different paths to do. Mercury keeps saying, look, follow diplomacy. Never utter a word which can hurt the opposite being so that you will lose money, right? Because Mercury is extremely focused on money making, right? Mercury is focused just on money making. Mars is extremely focused on winning. I have to win. Am I making money or not is not my concern as Mars, because I need to win the war, go back to my king's sun, because I report to the sun, right? I have a boss, that is me, Mars. I have a boss, I report to the sun. I'll go back to sun and tell him, Dad, I won the war, and this is the kingdom that I have won, and this is the gold, and these are the people. And from tomorrow, they all report to us. That is how Mars works. How does Mercury work? Is the more the peaceful the land is, right? If you don't have a war happening, right? These are two planets. If you don't have a war happening, and if the Raja or the king is idle and just only facilitate people's peace, then there will be more business happening, right? So my job is to see that, or pray, or keep advising as a Mercury, because Mercury is also an advisor, to keep advising the king or the other people that do not provoke war, right? Now, I rule diplomacy as Mercury, right? And the other planet, the Mars, rules war, right? Now you can see. So there is a miscommunication, misunderstanding while the person is speaking. He might be saying, look, there shouldn't be any war, but the people will take it as there is a war, right? So you need not be a diplomat or a big guy for it. You may be talking something and people will understand something else, right? As an Ashwini Pada 3. Misunderstanding with people and constantly being in conflict, constantly being in fights, and always liking competition, because Mars also likes competition. Mercury also likes competition. You can see Mercury is ruling the sixth house where competition is there. Mars is also ruling the 10th house, the fifth house from the sixth house, where there also you have competition, right? Mars will be very happy when he has a war and competition to win, all right? So they are always focused on victory. They want to win. So would they. So would the planets be. So this man will keep winning over competition. It could be an exam, an entrance examination, like the CAT, right? The person. I mean, if you talk about India, any entrance examination that the children write for any of the education or a degree thing, like the doctor thing, we have an examination called the NEET, right? National Entrance Eligibility Entrance Test. it's too difficult to secure a rank in it, right? So such competitions where securing ranks are difficult. It could be a job or it could be a education thing. Both can be there, right? So the person is focused on winning over these things. Mars and Mercury can mean skin diseases because skin is Mercury, Mars is the disease over the Mercury, and blood problems because both the planets do not like much of the moon. Mercury doesn't like the moon, which rules the blood. Mars debilitates in a sign where moon is ruling, right? So both of them do not like moon in one way. So problems of the moon ruled things, right? Or dehydration, right? These are such kind of things that you can look at with respect to moon, Mercury, Mars. And then there is too much of hair because of the sun and the Rahu, right? Sun Rahu will promote a lot of hair, or sun Rahu can also promote bald-headedness, right? A lot of loss of hair, both can be possible. And business aspirations and failures, because see, Mercury is looking at huge planning, right? Because if you have to win in a business, you need to have a strategy in place, and Mercury rules strategies, right? He's extremely careful about a lot of things all through, and that is Mercury. When you're dealing with business, you need to know how to position everything in your company so that you will always try to win. But Mars is not such a kind of a planet. Mars always has a job in hand, right? His boss tells him, come, Mars, this is what you are assigned, and please do that job. And his job is always go into the battlefield and wage a war. So it's a fixed job for him. Mars is a typical stereotype guy where he goes out, wins a war, comes back. That's it, right? So what happens then when the business has to be done? It has to be paced very correctly. And Mars is not like that. Mars goes out just like that immediately. And Mars does not want delay. And in businesses, sometimes intentionally you have to delay. So more than the success in the business, the person looks at a lot of failures in business. And at the end of life, only he usually succeeds. Because what happens with this combination is the person is not happy. He is not trying to do business happily. He has some or the other conflict happening with his life, because a lot of people will be settled and this man is still, he is looking at what is best for him. All right. So as we did the last time, I think most of the things are there for this. Okay, this is there. Ashwini Pada 3. Okay, it's there. Okay, this is from where it has gone a little wrong. Okay. So we can focus on this. So let's do this first. So look at what the D9 Lord is. The D9 Lord is Mercury. So in the Ashwini Pada 1, if the Pada 3, if the planet is there, it is ruled by Mercury, correct? Now bring this planet back into the D1 and see where does he debilitate. From the position, it will be in the D1. So it will be in the Aries. So Mercury debilitates along the axis of 6 and 12 because the planet is in the Aries. So the job of this planet is to offer something in the axis of 6 and 12, right? So you need to know all the significations of the sixth house, like sixth house is service, job, diseases, winning wars, fighting competition, problem solving, money making. All these are sixth house significations. Similarly, 12th house, hidden enemies, doctor, 6 and 12 is a doctor, right? Anyway, the axis will always be 6 and 12 if you have 6 and this thing is there. But usually the Mercury, Mars, with the high logic that is happening, the person can be a doctor. The person can be into professions which are highly challenging, and not usually you will get people in that kind of professions, which is like the doctor is one of them. So it's not a generic profession. Out of 100, you may find 3 people or 2 people right now, probably, I would say. Okay. It's still the rarest professions right now, even. Now, and what else do you have? 12th house can be, a person who is working in a jail or isolation or far off, somebody who works in the abroad. You can think of all those significations that relate to the 12th house. All right. Now, look at the Lord of the D1, where the Ashwini Pada 3 will be there, which is the Aries, right? Ashwini Pada 3 will fall in the Aries sign in the D1. So the Lord is Mars. Pull him back into this chart of the D9, make Gemini as the Lagna, because that is where the planet will be placed. And from there, see what happens to Mars. It debilitates in the Cancer, which is the second house. It exalts in the 8th house, which is the Capricorn, right? 8th house is the Capricorn from Gemini. Now the axis is 2 and 8. Now you have to find out what are all those things that can happen for 2 and 8. 2 is the accumulation of money. 8 is depletion of money. 8 is sudden events, right? 2 is the family, right? You can write n number of events across the 2-8 axis. You just need some time. I mean, you need just the chart so that you easily pick it up. It will take a little bit of time for you in the initial days. Once you master it, it will be very easy for you to actually contemplate, okay, what is happening with this planet? And it is essential. You cannot skip this if you have to understand what is Vimshottari Dasha. If you're very serious about Vimshottari Dasha and its result, there is no way you can escape this thing, although you may find it a little challenging. Okay, because Vimshottari Dasha will work on these principles of where the planet will debilitate and exalt. That is why the exaltations and the debilitations are taught to a student of Vedic astrology. Otherwise, they're just useless. If you're making a planet, I mean, if you're looking at a planet in your birth chart being exalted and being happy for it, debilitated and being very sorrowful for it, it is just your thinking. Doesn't work like that. A planet will not work based on exaltation or debilitation on your birth chart, but it will rather work like this, based on the axis in which it exalts and debilitates, right? You need to be very clear with these significations, and the planet is going to oscillate between these two things, right? Okay. So Mars being the first and the 8th lord of the D1, I think I'll rather skip this. There's nothing much here. Instead, we will focus on this one. Okay. It's just the same thing. I tried to post it here. So instead of confusing you with two different things, let's focus on this more. Okay. Now you see, you have your birth chart and you have a planet placed in the Ashwini Pada 3. How do I have to look at it? Okay. I'm assuming, pick up a sign, which is your Lagna. Okay. I'm picking up Leo, let's suppose. Leo is the Lagna. You have a planet in the Ashwini 3rd Pada, right? Let's also pick up the planet. Let's assume Jupiter, right? Now, Jupiter is 5th and the 8th lord. 5th and the 8th lord from the Leo, right? If you make Leo as Lagna, you have the 5th and the 8th lord as Jupiter. So Jupiter as 5th and 8th lord in Ashwini Pada 3. That is one way of reading it. Second is Jupiter placed in the 9th house, right? So I'm taking both the lordship and also the placement, right? In the D1 chart, you have to look at both and then combine it all together to find out what it is doing with the Pada 3. This is how the result has to be spelled out. It takes a little bit of time. I understand it's complex, but you can achieve it, right? The first house connections, right? Now you see, you can just use this thing, okay? It's in the 2nd and the 8th house. 2nd house is the resource. 8th house is the depletion of it. So it can show depletion of resources because of trying for a business, right? When you deplete your resources, you're trying for business, your business is not very successful, or you're constantly thinking which business to set up because you don't want to set up a small one. You're always trying to understand which business suits you better, right? Because Mars pulls you in one direction, the Mercury tries to pull you in another direction. So the person is highly indecisive. If your Mercury is strong, in cases where Mercury happens to be in the Lagna, etc., then Mercury is more stronger because it has got the directional strength. But Mars is always strong wherever it is placed. Mars keeps bothering the Mercury, right? Now, poor resources, loss of resources, poor sexual orientation or poor sexual needs can mean a lot of things. The person doesn't have any libido, okay, not interested in sexual activities. Is this a bad thing or a good thing? Okay, there are two ways of looking at it. If you're looking at a nun, right, a person who's a renunciate or a nun or a saint or anybody of that sort, Peethadipati, etc., they renounce sexual intercourse. So not having a sexual libido is a great thing for them. It's a blessing for them, right? If you're looking at an ordinary person like your child, what would you always think about your child? You always want your child to settle in his life, get himself a wife or a husband, have children, have grandchildren, and take your lineage further and further. This is what usually humans will aspire, or rather, wish for. Either you're an American or an Indian. Both ways, it's wherever you are, you would always want your lineage to go on. It's a humanly thing, right? Or it's a rather an animal thing that every thing wants to carry its generation forward. So it depends on whether it is necessary or not. Okay, or sometimes these days it is rather more accepted in the Western society of the LGBTQ thing. Sorry if I'm saying it wrongly. Okay, I don't remember the word correctly. Probably it is right. LGBTQ. Yes, I believe it is right. So if that thing is there, it's accepted, or it is not accepted. That's a different thing. But this situation can be possible, or the person is extremely intelligent, right? He is having a great logic because he knows what are all the pros and cons that can come up. Mars pulls you in one direction, as I said, Mercury pulls you into the other direction. And the person has a lot of free time. He keeps sitting and thinking, what is the best thing to do? So he has a knowledge of many, many things in life. And time actually ticks off, and the person will keep thinking, what should I do to get the best one, right? So sometimes it's a bad thing, sometimes it's a very good thing, but despite losing the time, the person may set up the best thing and he can still be successful. How do you know if he'll be successful or not? You may have to look at the D10 chart. You cannot be able, you will not be able to judge it from here. Okay, so the person has very good fighting spirit, right? The person may have misunderstandings. In one word, if you ask me, this combination, it's not an easy life, right? So is an easy life good or bad? It can be both, right? It can be either, depending on how the person is, right? Somebody gave an example yesterday in the Telugu class. She said the parents are all doctors. His mom is doctor, his father is a doctor, wife is a doctor, two siblings, I believe, both of them are doctors. And this man, the native, was pushed into doctor, studying doctor thing, or the MBBS that we call here. He was pushed by the parents. Although he did not like it, because he was pushed, he had to do it. But ultimately, after finishing his doctor degree, he said, look, I'm not going to be in the profession of doctor. I would want to do a business, right? Let me struggle. And he struggled for what, I think 6-7 years now. Still lives in the US or somewhere, and he still thinks, let me keep trying in the business side. Okay. So we don't know. I mean, it may sound different for us. He's a doctor. He could easily get money because he's got the degree and everything. Why is he not doing it? I mean, that's his choice, right? Because the thinking is different. He thinks I'm a unique person, right? Poor communication. If you have this connections to the second house, he may stammer, or the person has an excellent communication skills, but the problem is misunderstanding with the people, right? Very strange relationships in the family. I mean, it need not necessarily be sexual relations. Different things can be there with the family. Okay, it's not a usual family, right? Not enough savings from the father, or too much of a saving from the father, and that's why he doesn't have to do anything. Okay, this man is unique from the second house because we're talking about the uniqueness, right? Third house, this is where I would again say to be little careful about, or circumspect about before you utter words like the affairs, etc. Right? Because see, just don't look at one thing and keep jumping in the air saying, look, oh, I found one thing to have an affair. If an affair has to exist, it is actually more difficult to make an affair than to, go around in the world and say, look, I'm going to get married. It's more easier, right? A lot of people agree this, or go and ask people whoever had affairs. It's not an easy thing to start an affair, etc. Okay, why I'm trying to generalize this is because most of the people look at their charts and or their partners' charts, and they try to analyze it with very beginners kind of a knowledge. So what happens is, if you don't look at it from 4 or 5 angles, and if you're trying to judge it just from one thing and say, look, okay, sir has said Ashwini Pada 3 is an affair, so please don't jump and say, oh, he's got an affair. No, it cannot be possible like that. With one placement, you cannot judge anything. If an affair has to happen, there will be at least 10 things influencing it. You cannot have an affair with just one planet. Okay, believe me, it won't happen. Actually, if you ask me, if there is an affair, of all your 9 planets, at least 6, 7 planets have to support it, right? If you know how to judge it, then all 6 planets or 7 planets, in fact, most of the times, all 9 planets will show an affair. It is just that you do not know how to see. That's why you think, oh no, it is not showing. Okay. All 9 planets will show. At least 6. Okay. Because if you cut 9 into half, you will have 4.5 or rather 5. That's why I'm saying 6 is the number. Right. So different sexual orientation, because it's the 3rd house. Extremely intelligent person. Okay. He is extremely intelligent because of the 3rd house, Mars and Mercury. Right. Very, very good in taking initiatives. Right. He either has issues with the hands, or his hands are not usual, or he has a very fast hands. He does something with the hands. Right. And Mars and Mercury can also show childlessness, especially in the Navamsha thing. Mars and Saturn is what we will look at for childlessness as a combination thing. Now we are looking at the lordships, right? That's why I'm saying Mercury and Mars combinations by Rasi rulerships, and if they're trying to combine, like in this place, Mars is ruling the D1 thing, and Mercury is ruling the D9 thing. So here is what you will see, Mars and Mercury. So childlessness can be there. The person may not have children. And 4th house. 4th house, you can see it's ruled by the moon, right? So you can see moon when it comes into the Aries, where the Mars is ruling in the D1, right? So in combination with Mars, moon becomes debilitated, right? Where does moon debilitate? Moon debilitates in a Martian sign, which is the Scorpio. So moon is called as the Nichanatha, right? And Mercury doesn't like the moon much. Not much in the sense, Mercury doesn't like the moon at all, right? So the person has issues with the mother. There are relationship issues. The person may have a stepmother, or he may think that he is being treated stepmotherly, right? Stepson treatment, and or the mother is trying to push him too much, right? These are all those things that you may see with the 4th house thing. The 5th house, because it's the Mars and Mercury thing, which the 5th house represents the children. And childlessness comes from here. So there may be no children. Early death of children, right? Poor sexual health of the children, right? Or good knowledge, because Mars and Mercury provide extreme intelligence, because they both have a good control over the 3rd house, and 3rd house rules the intelligence. So it's an extreme good knowledge to the children, right? This can also be there. Look, I cannot write every signification that the 5th house represents. Whatever horoscopes came to my mind while I was trying to document it, unfortunately, some of it is lost. I just realized now that it is not full. Some of it is lost. Okay. So anyway, we will try to manage it with whatever is available today. I probably did not save it, and somehow the computer restarted and I lost little stuff here. Anyway, so sixth house, the person is extremely competitive. Okay, do not think this is going to be a very good signification. Once again, extreme competitiveness is very good one way, because you will be standing first in the class or standing first in something. But the problem with the extreme competitive nature is the person becomes, he gets something, he will think, look, this is not what I'm worth. I mean, I'm worth more, right? I need to target more. This more has no limits. In fact, that's the problem with the Mars and the Mercury. There is no limit for the more thing, because Mercury thinks, look, I'm worth more. I need more money. There's nothing wrong in actually thinking you need to get money. I'm very much for it. If you are in your early ages of 20 to 45, 50, this is the time to make money. You should make money. However, if you have this kind of a thing, very competitive attitude, and if you're not satisfied with what you're getting, even that as well is good. But you cannot leave what you're doing and then keep trying, right? Because I have some backup. Let me leave everything and then try. Because I think I'm worth more of it. And if I sit somewhere and working and then keep trying, I will not get enough time. Okay. Hope I'm making some sense with what I'm trying to say. Okay. So sixth house can show routine, daily routine. As I said, the example that I have quoted a little while ago, wherein all the family is all doctors, and this fellow is as a doctor, is also the same example where where I believe is Scorpio Lagna and Moon Mars are in the Ashwini third pada, if I remember it correctly. Somewhat like this. Okay, Scorpio Lagna is for sure. Moon is in Ashwini third pada, I believe. Okay. This is the example that the lady gave yesterday. He's a doctor and he doesn't want to be a doctor. Okay, qualified doctor, doesn't want to be a doctor. Rather, he wants to be in something else, in a business. And he's trying to figure out what business would suit to him at the age of some 38 or so, after having got married very late. I think he got married at the age of 36 or so. I mean, in Indian context, it's very late. All right, blessed after marriage, seventh house. Okay, what does seventh house has got to do? Seventh lord is Venus, right? So seventh lord is Venus. It comes to Moon's house, sorry, Mercury's house. What happens there? Mercury is money, so wife would bring a lot of money, right? Or it can also mean wife is sick, because Venus gets debilitated in a Mercurian sign. Because it's a Mercury sign, money comes with it, right? So there's not much of a problem for the money for the seventh house. In the sixth house, there can be, because this person is not making money. You have to carefully understand how the seventh and the sixth house are doing. They're two different things. With the seventh thing, I feel there is not much of a money issue, because money some or the other way it keeps coming. With the sixth house, this person is trying to struggle, because it's the sixth house is the routine. Struggle happens there. Right? Seventh house doesn't show much of a routine. It actually shows the opposite side of the people. So spouse is bringing money. The spouse is a spendthrift or a deceased person, or she's a doctor as well. Okay, because it's the doctor thing that gets into the Mercurian house. Or the wife is not doing well in the health, right? Eighth house, issues with inheritance, or there is a competition, or there is a very unique inheritance, right? The person has attained inheritance which is very unique. Okay, he has inherited something which is very unique. Nobody else would give his son such kind of an inheritance, right? Long-term diseases, sexual diseases, unique diseases where you must have not even heard of a disease which is a long-term thing, and somebody says a unique name, you must have not even heard of that name. Such kind of a disease exists, right? Poor health of father for the ninth house connection, early death of father. Okay, so how am I deciphering this? In the other way you can see it is, just look at from the D1 chart, make the Aries as the Lagna. Why am I making Aries as the Lagna? Because that is where the planet is positioned, right? So I'm making that as a Lagna. Now see who is the ninth lord. the ninth lord is Jupiter, and he's also ruling the 12th lord, right? Now bring this Jupiter into the Navamsha chart. Place it there only in the Sagittarius. Now see what happens when you see it from Gemini. From the Gemini, it happens to be the 7th and the 10th lord, right? 7th and 10th lords are challenging, right? Because they are the enemy signs. Now either that comes into the Gemini. If you put Mercury and Jupiter from the Gemini's angle, because you have to look at from the Gemini sign. If you're looking at from the Virgo, it is the Sagittarius is the 4th house and the Pisces is the 7th house. So one house is a good house, which is a 4th house, right? You know what are the bad houses, right? The enemy houses are 3, 6, 7, 10, and 11, right? 4th is not a bad house or an enemy house. It's a friendly house. So Jupiter happens to be a neutral from a Virgo standpoint of view, where the Mercury gains the Mula Trikona, right? As a Mercury, that's fine. But from the Gemini, it happens to be the 7th and the 10th house ruling. So 7, 10 houses, both are challenging houses. So both are enemy houses. So Jupiter becomes Adhishatru, right? He becomes the biggest enemy. Now, put him back into Gemini and see what happens. The kind of relationship what Mercury and Jupiter would have. Mercury is the son of Moon and Tara, right? Tara is the wife of Jupiter. Moon actually eloped with Moon. Sorry, Moon actually eloped with Tara, and then Mercury was born. However, Mercury was still adopted by Jupiter. He gave him all the education, right? He has put him into his school. Jupiter was running a school, the Gurukula, into which Mercury was also absorbed, and Jupiter tried to teach him everything that he knew. Now, still Mercury hates him because he did not take good care of his mother. Jupiter did not take good care of his mother, Tara, and he also hates Moon, right? He actually hates both the fathers. Now, the Mercury, because it's in the Gemini, so what result do we get here? The father may have a poor health. The father is could be dead because the Sagittarius falls into the 7th house. 7th house can show death, right? And also one of the rulings is the 12th house as well, from the Martian sign, the 9th, 12th. And from here, both the houses are bad houses. So the loss of father can be possible, or he keeps constantly, I mean, the father keeps challenging the son, or the native is being challenged by father every day, or the native challenges his father every day, right? The father is extremely talented or uniquely talented, but he did not get enough recognition. Everything is right about the native and father relationship is all good. Now what happened? I mean, how would you judge all these things? It depends on the kind of planets that you have. You have Venus, Moon, Jupiter, such kind of planets who are very diplomatic people. Okay, that's why these people are Saumya Grahas. They're very diplomatic. They do not want to get into a conflict. So rather, what happens? The father is uniquely talented, extremely talented. He has some unique talents, but somehow the talents, could not come his way, and he couldn't make much money out of it. And father stands a little lower, right, than the native, because Ashwini is very good for the native. Okay, adopted child, there can be an adopted child to the father because Jupiter ultimately adopted a child. So everything is all right about the thing. The father is also very rich and he educated, maybe let us suppose, along with this native, he also tried to educate his driver's son or somebody who he treated as his own child, right? There can be many stories around this. You can keep writing about all this. 10th house. 10th house is look at from the Aries standpoint. 10th house and 11th house both are ruled by Saturn. I'm bringing that Saturn back here, right? I'm bringing that Saturn back here. So what happens? The Capricorn and the Capricorn and the Aquarius from the Gemini. Okay, those were the 10th and the 11th houses. They become the 8th and the 9th houses. The 10th and the 11th houses are becoming the 8th and the 9th houses. So what happens? 10th and the 8th combination can be a unnecessary breaks in education, Or the person is a doctor. He keeps operating people because it's Capricorn. That is where the Mars exalts, and that is where the Jupiter also has got a debilitation point. Jupiter is the Jeev Karka. Capricorn is the Mars. Mars is surgeries. Okay, so you can relate 100 things out of it. Also, you can look at the D10 and from where you will get 3-4 confirmations from which you can say there is a doctor thing here possible, right? So either the 10th and the 8th house are connected. It means he's a research fellow or he has breaks in his life. He works for insurance. I think we have talked about all these significations multiple number of times. If he is an ordinary person, his career has constant breaks. His boss does not approve his actions, right? There are challenges with the boss. There can be childlessness issues in the father's family, or his siblings do not have children, right? Or his career is constantly evolving or changing, right? And then the 11th house, you can see that the childlessness to friends or childlessness to elder siblings. There can be, these people can be rich because ultimately this gets into a Gemini Navamsha. These people must have faced a lot of difficulties in life and then eventually they became rich because of business or something like that. In the early days, they must have definitely seen a lot of failures in the business, right? And then you have 12th house. 12th house is again, could again show a doctor, spiritual growth, healer, astrologer, foreign work, children are abroad, right? Losses of resources due to business. These are some of those significations which I can say that you will have with the Ashwini in the having the 12 houses connections. So this has to be Vilakshana. This is a Vilakshana Amsha, right? And so one is doctors, the other one is uniqueness. This is what it is based on. So it's completely unique. The person is looking at uniqueness and sexual issues, sexual health, or children, or not very interested in having a partner, right? Because the seventh lord, Venus, from the Aries, you always have to consider from the Aries only because that is where the planet is in the D1 chart, right? And then try to bring it into the Navamsha chart. That's the best way of doing it. So the seventh house is lorded by Venus. Venus gets into Gemini sign, which is lorded by Mercury, and Mercury is the Nichanatha, right? And also second and seventh house will represent starting a family or getting a business, successful business running, or getting married, right? So these things will be delayed, or there can be issues with that, or spouse is unhealthy or something like that, right? These are those things that you may find uh, things around it. And then you can also see the 6 and 12 things which we have talked about a little while ago. The axis is 6, 12 and 2, 8. This is what we've talked about, 6 and 12, and then 2 and 8. Across these axes is where the planet is actually working. These things will be very, very useful when you're trying to decipher the results of Vimshottari. I'm giving you a heads up. What I have decided is I will complete the classes of this sort. Maybe I'll give you another 5, 6 padas like this. Maybe I'll complete Aries. I'm very sure because it becomes a lot of work, and it also could be boring as well to keep talking about this. Okay. Unfortunately, we haven't got these things going. One is this one. The Navadurga is Chandraghanta or Chandraghantika. The sorry, Chandraghantika. So there is this video of this man, Alok, Shubham Alok. Please listen to that class where he explained about Chandraghantika. So Chandraghantika is, Chandraghantika is like this. The Durga Mata with 10 hands sitting over a tiger which has a crescent moon over her head. So Chandra would mean waxing and waning. So there you can see the person is aspiring to grow. Then there is, there is a setback, and again he is aspiring to grow, and ultimately he reaches the Purnima, right? So there are setbacks and there is an ultimate success when you have the word Chandra is there. And you can see 10 hands for the Mata, which would mean the third house. Third house is all hands, right? So Mars is the significator of the third house, and Mercury is also the lord of third house. So 10 hands, a person who is a multitasker, who can do a lot of things at the same time, right? Multitasking can be bad sometimes because it is important for you to focus on one thing, for you to excel in life. Sometimes it is necessary, and sometimes it is very good so that you can do a lot of things at all at a time simultaneously, depending on the kind of job you're doing. So never stereotype saying, look, 10 jobs at a time is a good thing. No, it may be bad as well if the job needs a huge concentration. The Narsimha, the Nava Narsimha, of which is the Malola Narsimha, wherein the Lakshmi is sitting over the lap of the Narsimha, and he is in the kind of a Vaikuntha setup where um, where the prosperity and the person is thinking either to kill the Narsimha further on. I mean, the message to seek the avatar or come as an avatar down is yet to come. Or once that is over, right, this person is thinking in a deep meditation, right? Both things it can show. So it is showing a stage of planning, right? It is showing a stage of planning for the Narsimha. Wherein there is a Raja, the Raja has a wife. He's very prosperous. He also has a friend who's a Brahmana. The Brahmana did not do what a Brahmana was ought to do. So this person must have left his Sandhya Vandana and Kriyas like that, and he was not doing what he is ought to do. That is what is written there. So you can see that here, wherein if you could try to connect it, the 10th house is the karma, right? Look at it from the Aries. From the Aries standpoint of view, you will see that the 10th house falls in Capricorn. Try to connect that from the Gemini. You will see that it is in the 8th house. So the 10th house and the 8th house connection is Vismarana of karma. That means not doing what is to be done, right? He has something and he's not doing what has to be done. Like a doctor, after becoming a doctor, he has to be practicing doctor. The person leaves that thing and does something else, right? So the Brahmana left his usual career and he made friends with the king. They both go to a forest, hunt a deer, and a fight comes up in when they're trying to share the meat between these people, between the Brahmana and the king. Okay, these stories will be like this. Okay, so never think why a Brahmin is eating a meat, etc. In the Kali Yuga, only Brahmins are forbidden from eating meat. In the previous yugas, they were eating meat. Okay, that's why you can see these stories of that we have talked in the Anuradha, where we have talked about this man. What's his name? I don't remember now. The Tamil man, the short, what's his name? Anyway, Agastya. Thank you so much for remembering. Okay. So Agastya, right? So he was also, we've talked about that. So they were trying to share the meat across these two people, and that's when a fight came up, and the Raja, out of the anger, now you see the Raja killed the Brahmin, right? Out of anger, he killed the Brahmin. Now the Raja goes back home and thinks, oh, I have killed a Brahmin. I've did a big sin. I've done a big sin. Let me do remedies for it. He does the remedies. And after doing remedies for it, for the Brahmahatya Pataka, that means the curse that comes out due to killing of a Brahmin, right? He does remedies for it. He dies peacefully on a Sankranti day, right? And he gets back into the world after 7 yugas, of 7 cycles of the yugas. And then he is born once again. He's born once again, and then he didn't have children, right? He didn't have children. Now, that is also being shown. I've kept on explaining you all that stuff. And then finally, the wife will have children after taking up remedies, right? This is what is shortly the story about. So if you do some remedies, the remedies that the Raja did was, what is that? Constructing a well so that people can drink water out of it. So you need not construct a well, but you can always offer, water during the hot summer, right? I mean, in India, it's very common to give water, buttermilk during, hot season. Let's suppose in Hyderabad, we have people placing pots of water, and they are distributing water for free during the peak summer season during the April and May. Okay, this is one of those remedies for you to have children, just in case if Ashwini 3 is having a problem. Okay, so I think I will end here. People have questions, they can go ahead and ask. Was it too fast today?